Neck-throughs, guitars, they're like a guy that you won't have a beer with you.
I want to hear what's pushing the notes.
Freddie King and B.B. King, Albert King, and let's not forget Burger King.
I don't want to blow my knuckle out.
Stainless steel is the work of the devil.
These go to 11.
From the East Amplification Tone Labs in Baltimore, Maryland, it's the Amps and Axes Show. With your hosts, Jeff the Godfather of Low Wattage Amps Bober and Mick Marcelino.
Well, good day to you, Mr. Bober.
Good day to you, Mr. Marcelino.
Meat and potatoes.
Well, you just mentioned it.
I know.
Now I'm hungry. How you doing?
Oh, it's a good day, man.
It is a good day.
And we got to thank Mr. Paul Gilbert.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Gilbert. That was a great interview.
That was an awesome interview. And our fans, you guys, you really enjoyed that. We got a lot of comments on it. And we thank you for that.
Yes. We thank you and we thank Paul.
Yes.
Thank everybody.
And you know, look, this is the podcast world, so we have a friend, Jude Gold. Has the No Guitar Is Safe podcast.
Correct.
And he interviewed him a week before.
We didn't know.
And Jude does this thing where he's in front of the guys and they're jamming, and they jammed. It was like he said they went on for like over 7 minutes at the end of that thing, and he just faded it out.
Oh yeah,
yeah. They did Taking Care of Business, and they traded solos. I don't know how many times. But
we didn't have said opportunity. We did the best we could.
Yeah, and we our good buddy Greg Mara. A little shout out to Greg out there.
Hey, Greg.
He sent me a thing. Said, "Dude, I'm a huge Paul Gilbert fan." Showed me a picture that's hanging in his house of Paul Gilbert that I've never seen. He must have taken it. And he said, "Dude, I heard stuff that I had no idea."
Oh, nice.
So that was kind of cool.
We do go a little more in depth.
We really do.
And I really enjoy that. Hearing that from people.
And that whole thing with Jude, it's like, hey, you can hear the guy if you want, head on head there, just going at it. You'll get some story. Jude doesn't hold back, but we go a little bit deeper, and so if you listen to both, you're going to get the full gamut.
There you go.
One guy said, 2 Paul Gilbert interviews in 1 week. I must be dreaming, or I must be in heaven. I think is what he said.
Well, glad to be able to give you a little piece of your heaven.
Yes. And speaking of heaven, you got to go to ampsandaxescast.com.
You do.
And out there, you're going to find our episodes. You're going to find all the social media. We got a little iTunes icon. Please give us 5 stars.
5 stars.
That's
1,
right.
2, 3, 4, 5.
And on the left there, underneath that, right beside the social media. Holy Christ, I can't speak. It is the Amazon banner.
There you go.
And when you click on that and you bookmark us, do whatever you got, buy your stuff through there. And when you click through our website, we get a little bit of kickback. We keep the lights on, keep the hard drive not spinning because it's solid state. And, it's all good.
It is.
And then one last thing so we can get into our little discussion.
Okay.
Our buddy from up north.
Mr. Jason Sadites.
That's right. And he gives us
Quick Lick
all the time.
All the time.
Now, he's been not because he's been moving.
Yes.
And we don't expect anything. He's got a new album coming out.
Yes.
And it's it's been crazy. So we're going to have him back on, talk about the new album.
Right.
About the new town. Right. It isn't like he moved down the street. He went 4 hours away from where he was.
Was it only 4?
Or was it 8?
I'm thinking it's 8. Dude.
Maybe it was 8.
It's 8.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. Yeah. It's not a drive around the corner.
No, it's not.
No. Yeah. That's when you can't go back to get what you forgot. You pack once.
Yes.
And that's it.
And the truck leaves.
And I'm sure he's going to be putting in a new studio. So we'll talk to him about that.
And we'll be getting more quick licks.
Oh yeah. But I safe move and enjoy your new
absolutely
environment.
Take as long as you want.
Totally.
Hey, he still likes all of our stuff, so I know he's watching.
Yeah.
Watching and listening.
But he's
the Instagrammy.
He's got work to do.
Yes.
As AWB used to say, got work to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, do you have a product you wanted to talk about?
Oh, I was asking you if you had seen the Tonewoods Amplifier.
Yeah, that thing is crazy.
Which I thought it's probably got to be one of the most innovative products that I've seen in a while.
Never would ever guess it.
No.
Like somebody would actually come up with that. But if you really think about it, it's for an acoustic guitar.
Yes. It attaches to the, not permanently, I assume,
like
but
maybe
attaches
suction
to the
cup or something. I don't know.
It has to attach firmly enough to impart sound back into the guitar.
Exactly.
Because it's so cool. It initially it's like for reverbs and delays and things like that, which happen after the note, of course. So it gives it time to process and somehow infuse back into the guitar to where the reverb and delay comes out of the body of the guitar.
Yeah, it's kind of creepy when you first...
It's
because it's like, whoa. You see that everybody that tries it, they're like, whoa. Because it's coming out of the sound hole.
Yeah. Yeah. It's vibrating the guitar just like the strings vibrate the guitar. It's pretty cool. But I saw a video today. I don't know if you had seen this one yet. There is... I guess that there's a USB that you can attach to it. There's an app, more than likely from your phone or something, that you
and
can
you
download
can manipulate the.
It tracks bass. It does sitar. It's pretty crazy.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, it's pretty. So I mean, kudos to the inventor of the Tonewoods.
Maybe we can get him on.
We should.
Yeah,
we should because
it's a crazy device.
It's really innovative. Now. My question, I have a couple of questions about it. We can't run too long here, but I can see it being something where in a room, just acoustically, it's a wondrous thing because you don't have to plug anything in, you don't have to do anything. It makes your guitar huge, does all these kind of things, and it's really cool. Mm-hmm. And again, mic'd in a mic'd environment, you could get it as well. Not too many acoustic environments are mic'd other than the studio. In a studio, you're probably going to be putting that on after the fact.
Yeah, you'll be running that through some crazy high-end, reverb
you can use
delay
a $3,000, condenser mic and put it through all the effects that you can
whatever
later.
Flavor is today.
Right. So, maybe in a studio that doesn't have all those capabilities, it would be fantastic as well. A home studio kind of thing, recording,
sure,
would be cool. But does it come through, like if your guitar is piezo equipped, however anybody wants to say that, would it come back through that? Like if your guitar is plugged in?
I don't know if it would.
I'm not sure.
Now, see, if you get like the Fishman blend,
that has a built-in mic.
There's a condenser mic inside there, so that would definitely.
You're right. That would
work. But whatever.
Yeah,
we're going to have to find out who the person invented that, and then ask them why would you name your device something that nobody has ever gotten right or knows the correct pronunciation.
The piezo or piezo, paisan.
I don't understand
that.
Paisan
pickup.
Why would somebody make it that difficult knowing that, this product took off and everybody uses it? Nobody can tell us who the right name is. I'm sure we're going to get a lot of texts and emails and stuff like
pickup.
that.
It's a paisan pickup.
It's going to be, just like the guitar from up north.
Yeah.
The Godin, 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 whatever. Godin. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's like...
Again, we'll have him on. Well, we should have him on.
Absolutely.
And he can pronounce it for us.
Yeah. And it'll be in French.
That'll be perfect because that will be the perfect pronunciation.
And then I'm going to cut it from the audio and I'm just going to paste it every time we have to say it.
That's right. Perfect. I love it. I love it.
That's called editing.
You're good at that.
I try.
That's why you get paid.
Every now and then I'm like, we need to cut that.
Well, I don't know that we'll need to cut anything today.
Hopefully not.
Well, maybe hopefully so. Who knows?
It makes me work a little bit longer. Everybody's like, where's the show? I'm like, no worries. Hold on, it's coming.
It's on its way. It's on its way. And we do get people asking, like, where's the show? Where is the show? Is it up yet? Did I miss it? Where's the show?
I'm driving kids somewhere.
Right. I need my amps and access fixed now. But anyway, we have a very cool guest this week who I've actually known for a very long time, since he's from the area, actually from the D.C. area, but he's been around a very long time as well. And he's a very unique player, and you can't write him off just as being a blues player, because he's not. There's so many other influences in the way he plays. He could be a little bit blues based, but there's a lot more going on in the songs and the phrasings that he writes and uses. And he's one of the masters of the Telecaster.
Well, there you go. Not afraid of the treble.
Not afraid of the treble. That's right.
There you go.
And did an album with the late great Danny Gatton called Blazing Telecasters.
There you go.
So you got to be kind of good to hang with the Gatton. So we're gonna take a quick break, and we're gonna come back with our guest of the week, the one, the only, Mr. Tom Principato.
Hey everybody, this is Paul Gilbert, and you are listening to Amps and Axes, the most awesome podcast in the world.
All right, and as promised, because we always come back as promised, we are back with our guest of the week, the one, the only, Mr. Tom Principato. Tom, how are you, my friend?
Great, Jeff. How's it going?
It's going great, man. We got you on the Skype machine here, so we're doing fine. We're doing fine.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for doing this.
Well, thanks for taking the time, man. We do appreciate it. Man, where to start? I got to start. I got to start where I always start with guests, because we could start talking about stuff immediately, because we always have a lot of stuff to talk about. But I'm gonna do what I always do, and we're gonna take a trip in the Wayback Machine, my friend, and we're gonna go all the way back to where Mr. Tom Principato was born and raised, and what got you into this music world, man. Give us a little history.
Well, I grew up in Falls Church, Virginia, and I think my earliest musical influences and interest came out of my parents' rather eclectic record collection. And my parents were both avid music fans. My dad really loved jazz, so he had some Benny Goodman sextet records with Charlie Christian. And my mom loved everything. She had albums by Les Paul and Mary Ford. Actually, it was 45s. Chet Atkins, classical music, gospel music. So I got exposed to a pretty eclectic variety early on, and I think really that's what's kind of helped to shape my eclectic approach of my whole career in life.
That's pretty cool. I mean, it's not the norm that we hear, which is very cool, because a lot of times we hear Beatles. So it's really funny. We've had this discussion before and this realization before, but there's two big acts that have seemed to really influence most of the guitar players out there.
Yeah.
And of course, early on, the Beatles.
Yep.
And not so much the Stones, but the Beatles.
Yep.
Right.
And then there wasn't so much for a while until the next generation got influenced, and surprisingly, or you may be surprised or maybe not surprised, the next big band to influence the next generation of guitar players turns out to be Kiss.
I'll be damned.
Yeah. I was too.
Well, I think the thing worth mentioning here is that my interest and starting of guitar was pre-Beatles. So it was ventures for me, and as far as rock and roll went.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We're talking, I started playing guitar in 1963, so I was 11 years old, and that was pretty much at the end of the folk boom, before the British invasion. So there wasn't really a lot there for me to grab onto, except for the stuff I already mentioned with my parents, the classic guitar stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I had been playing guitar for a couple of years, let's say now we're up to the mid-'60s in high school, now I'm catching on to B.B. King, through Mike Bloomfield, Clapton, Cream, Hendrix, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it totally makes sense.
Now, just to talk about, the influences that he heard from his parents.
Mm-hmm.
I saw something the other day. Somebody classified Al Di Meola as like the original shredder, right? And I like Al.
Mm-hmm.
And he's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's fast. But I saw a video of Les Paul, and I was like, no.
Back in his day,
my God, that guy was so
blinding.
Quick.
Yeah.
And not an ounce of distortion.
Right.
It was just literally as clean as could be, and on whatever, Les Paul-ish, that thing that, that first one that got sold for what, as much as a Lamborghini or something. But, but just blazing on this thing. And I'm going, oh my God. So, there was this one time that guys were probably like us now with some of these guys going, how do you play like that?
Right.
And I mean, just amazing. And then Chet Atkins too, right? He, defying, and he was one that, like, in those early years, I don't even know if he was really recognized for what he was doing.
Right.
Chet, his thing didn't start because he was like the backup guitar player for female singers, right?
Well, the classic country family there that Johnny Cash married into.
Carter.
The Carter family, yes.
Yeah, because I seen videos about it.
Started out with them. And
wow.
Yeah, so, we got to hold off on where the shredders really came from.
Well, one thing I wanted to interject, why Les's sound was so clean?
Well, he was always experimenting with pickups and low impedance pickups and,
Yes, low impedance.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it was. And I remember reading, I guess it might have been in one of his biographies, he tried to get the whole industry to go low impedance, and he couldn't swing it.
Yeah, because that's they're less susceptible to noise too, and they're better with long cable runs, and
really,
it's like a low impedance mic. It's it's
now and in his setup, a lot of those pickups were single coil.
Yeah,
they were not humbuckers like we think they were, especially on that one guitar.
Right.
They were always changing them out.
Well, the low impedance stuff is much less susceptible to interference like that.
All right. Well, it's enough with Les Paul. Let's
go back to Tom.
Tom, yeah.
Tom doesn't use low impedance pickups. I don't think you do you? No, you couldn't.
Nope.
So when so you were influenced by all these influences when you said you started playing at 13?
I was 11.
11. Okay. What?
In 1963.
63. There's where the 3 came from. What were you playing? What did you begin your playing career on? Was it the typical acoustic that you couldn't hold the strings down on, or how did that go for you?
Well, I did take lessons for a brief amount of time, just a few months, from a neighborhood guy. My mom was encouraging me to take up guitar and bought these lessons. So I started out on a rental archtop. I think it was like a Harmony.
Mm.
And then once I got with the Ventures and all that stuff, with money I earned from my paper route, I got a Sears Silvertone electric guitar and an amp.
Nice.
Was it the diamond one? The amp?
Amp in the case?
Yeah, well, no, the amp, the speaker cutout should have looked like a diamond. That's the one that's supposedly sought after.
Oh,
no, it wasn't that.
Oh, okay. I hear that and I go, really? Is that much of a difference?
I still have that amp. It must be Class A, and maybe it's 8 watts.
Mm-hmm.
1 6K6 and a couple of other weird tubes.
Probably a 8-inch speaker, maybe 6-inch, maybe. Who knows?
It was a 10.
It was a 10. Wow.
I think so.
Big guns there.
Now, what year did you buy that? What was that? What year?
63.
63. Do you still have the guitar?
No, but Tommy Lepson found one just like it and gave me one.
Oh, wow.
It's cool that you have the original amp.
Yeah,
because there's some photographs of me playing that guitar, and Tommy had seen it, and he came across it somewhere and bought it and gave it to me, and it's just the funniest thing.
Oh man, what a sweetheart! What a sweetheart! So were you? Was it long before you got together with other guys to make collective noise?
Yeah, my first attempts at bands, the garage stuff was still centered around like the Ventures. Mm-hmm. So it was me and another guitarist and a drummer that really didn't even have a full drum kit. And then by the time I got into high school and we started trying to play, those Beatles songs and the top 40 of the day, it was, I guess eventually guitar, bass, and drums. And then I kind of got frustrated with guitar for a short while, so I took up organ. And I played in a couple of high school bands. I had like a Farfisa organ. And we played like Doors and Vanilla Fudge and stuff like that. And
nice.
Then when I discovered blues, that's when I really got serious about guitar.
Now, did you discover blues from blues players, or did you discover it from coming back from Britain with the guys that were playing American blues?
Well, it was the real stuff. I had this amazing sort of occurrence where in the old Evening Star Washington paper, there used to be some kind of a teen weekend section or teen section. And there was an ad that said blues band wants guitarist, and I didn't at that point know much about blues, so I went and auditioned. They said, "Well, you play good." This was a band with harmonica, and Jeff Lodson was the drummer. I don't know if you might know him,
I don't think
but
so.
They said, "Yeah, you play good, kid, but if you really got to learn about the blues." So they sent me home with this incredible stack of records, which was Howlin' Wolf Moanin' in the Moonlight, the Robert Johnson album, the best of Little Walter, the best of Muddy Waters.
Wow.
I already at that point knew about B.B. King and Albert King. So it was mostly Chicago blues stuff. Mm-hmm. Elmore James. And so that did it for me. And so that basically started me on a path that took me basically playing mostly Chicago blues through like the late 60s, through Powerhouse up until the late 70s.
Nice. Yeah. It's just so cool that somebody would,
hand you a stack of records.
Yeah, just like take enough interest, man, here, you got to check this stuff out, man.
Well, they probably saw he had chops, and they were like, oh, we got to get him, get him figuring all this out.
Probably the best guitar player that auditioned that had no blues backing. Like, wow, this guy's really good now. If we teach him how to play the blues, he's going to be really, really good.
Now, one thing I wanted to interject
That's great.
It was funny because you said the one guy that you played with, he really didn't even, when you first started, didn't even have a complete drum set. And see, this is what I want to tell our younger listeners. See, today you can get a $199 guitar that plays very well.
Sure.
And you can pick up like a Mapex drum set, literally the whole thing for like $300. And it's not difficult to have, those things.
Right.
Think about what it would have been like back then.
Oh yeah.
No effects, playing through a little 8-watt Silvertone with your guitar that's probably like you got to strangle it a little bit. It's not like there are hundreds of them to choose from. Mm-hmm. And your drummer shows up and he's got a kick and a snare and maybe a hi-hat.
Right.
Yeah.
Or a cymbal of some sort.
Yeah. So that's probably
what made it fun.
Well, that's probably where rockabilly came from because
I also remember in those days being the peak of the mountaintop for us was when the other guitarist got a Silvertone Twin 12, and we plugged everything into it. So me and him and 2 vocal mics were all plugged into the Silvertone Twin 12.
Never sounded better.
Our drummer didn't have a kick drum. He had a snare, and a tom and a hi-hat and a ride cymbal. That was it. No kick drum.
Wow. That's kind of a weird thing not to have, but that's
yes.
We
didn't have a bass player, so
no bass player and no kick drum, man. Like, wow.
There's no 1 and 3.
but you had an amp with 4 inputs in it, and used all 4. That's great, man. So what when he got the Twin 12, you must have been jealous and saved up your paper route money to get something new. What was the next rig after that, after Little Silvertone?
Me and my dad went down to Chuck Levin's in Washington. I think it was 13th and G for the Christmas of 1966, and got me a Princeton Reverb.
Wow.
It's wow on two parts, because if you live in this area like we do, knowing that store
has been around so long.
It's just been so long, man. Wow.
Yeah.
And it's still there today.
Right.
You know?
Yep. Well, the only reason they relocated was because of the Martin Luther King riots in '68.
Oh, wow.
That whole area was just burned down.
Mm-hmm. Wow, I had no idea that that's the reason they relocated. Wow. Because it's not the same location as the original, but it's been in this location forever now.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, since, 68? Yeah.
And all the big companies have tried to come in, and they're still standing.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a Princeton Reverb. So you said 68?
No, this was 66.
66, so it's a blackface.
Yes. Yeah, I wish I still had that amp. Unfortunately, it's long gone. I don't even know what happened to it.
Wow. Man, we all get so many shoulda, woulda, couldas. You know?
Yeah, that's for sure.
So when did you, I mean, you know, you're kind of known for a Telecaster. When did you get your first Telly?
Well, remember I said I played organ for a couple of years in high school.
Yeah.
The bass player in that group had a 66 Esquire that I bought for $75 from him.
Oh my God!
And so that was, I guess, 67. Yeah,
Wow.
I wish I had that guitar now too.
Oh man, yeah, I bet you do. You don't want that guitar; it's just old.
It's only worth $15,000.
Yeah, there was no vintage; they were just old.
Yeah,
you know, it's old. Give me $70.
The pickup isn't working. Throw it out.
Yeah. Before people knew how to fix pickups,
Joe Barton,
right? Exactly, and you couldn't you couldn't just go buy a replacement pickup because they were hard to get as well.
I'm sure.
You know,
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So that was really my first good guitar and my second guitar ever. And then I think within a year, I got a guitar that I do still have. I got a 1966 ES335 from Willie Downing, who is Big Al Downing's brother. He's a successful gospel singer, but he used to sell used gear out of his apartment here near Falls Church. And so I bought that 335 from him. That's the one that I played in Powerhouse, took it to Boston. It was stolen, and I even got it back.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Yep, and I still have it now. I don't play it much, but I still got it.
Yeah, well, you know, if you play it and then it gets stolen and then it comes back to you, that's you probably want to take a little extra good care of that one.
Yeah.
Well, I always said they were going to bury me with it, but I don't know. It's getting to be so that it's worth so much. I may have to sell it to pay for my funeral.
Exactly.
They'll be putting him in the coffin. They'll be like, "Oh yeah, go get the guitar," and somebody will grab it and they'll go, "No, no, no.
No.
Let's get this on eBay
Right.
while we
Who
can."
do you think's paying for this?
Exactly.
Oh man, that's great. So were you still using the Princeton Reverb at that point with Powerhouse?
No, I started out with the Twin Reverb, which got stolen. It's really funny.
Wow.
When I moved to Boston in '72, I had one guitar and one amp, the 335 and a Twin Reverb. And within a couple of months of having moved to Boston, I had both things stolen.
Oh man.
So even though I got the 335 back, I got a Brown Concert to replace the Twin Reverb. And I loved that amp. Played it through all of the 70s. That's the only amp that I had.
Yeah, they were very cool amps.
Yeah.
You know, kind of almost the predecessor to a Super Reverb, but not really. They do sound different. It's a 410 combo, but they definitely do sound different. The brown circuit sounds different than the black, and such a cool vibrato. You know,
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't want to call it tremolo because it borders on real vibrato. It actually, there's a little pitch shifting going on there. It's
Wow.
like one of the only Fenders that does that, and it's just so cool.
You say 410 combo,
Yeah.
and my shoulder hurts.
No, it wasn't too bad.
No.
It wasn't too bad. It wasn't as heavy as a Super Reverb. Because, you know, the model that I had Alnico speakers in it, and those don't weigh much at all.
No.
Right,
That,
right.
That's when you get lucky. It's when they're ceramic. It's
And
really-
that's a particular sound, too.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
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 Warmer, right?
No.
No?
I think a ceramic has more bottom end. I think an Alnico is, I like to say it's more papery, you know.
I was just going to use that very word. It's more papery, no question.
Yeah, yeah, and they
And at lower volumes, more woody.
yes, yeah, they break up differently.
And I had my little matching brown outboard tube reverb unit, and I was good to go.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I still have one of those. Fortunately, I don't. I had a concert too, but I don't have that any longer. But I do have the reverb thing. So cool, man. So that was the Powerhouse rig.
Pretty much.
Cool. And Powerhouse went for how long?
Until fall of '77.
Okay. Cool. And then
I think I did at the end of Powerhouse. I think I tried a black concert too, which is a pretty rare baby.
yeah.
And I think it was okay, but I didn't like it as much as the Brown concert.
Yeah, the Brown concerts are very cool. Very cool. So, all right, what happened after Powerhouse? At some point,
Well, then
at some point, I know you get together with Danny, but that's probably substantially afterwards.
Well, actually, only a few years, but well, I was aware of Danny because Powerhouse did a record for Billy Hancock's Aladdin label. So I was already aware of Danny. Let me see. The first time that I saw Danny play was at the Child Herald, and that was probably 73
Okay.
with Liz Meyer and friends.
Mm.
And Powerhouse did a couple of shows with Danny and the Fat Boys, and you know, we were in touch with Billy Hancock a lot. And you know, by this time the Nighthawks were on Aladdin too, and Bobby Radcliffe. So there was this whole little clique of Washington roots music right there.
Mm-hmm.
By the time Powerhouse broke up, I had been living in Boston. So in the fall of '77, I came back to Washington, and that's when, among other things, I started this duo with Pete Kennedy, which was kind of a swing jazz thing. And it was also, we played a lot of that Chet Atkins, Les Paul stuff. And then eventually we added Steve Wolf, and it became a trio, and then we worked with various drummers, and it kind of became a band for a while.
Nice. And let me see, Steve. Steve Wolf also played with Danny, right?
Yes, he was in Redneck Jazz with Danny and Buddy Emmons.
Right. That was a band. Redneck Jazz with Buddy Emmons. Jesus.
Just the title alone.
Well, yeah, exactly. There you go. There you go.
You know, unfortunately, Buddy just passed away last year. We were having these tribute concerts to Danny. There was a big show at the Birchmere, and Steve Wolf and everyone was hoping to get Buddy up here for a reunion with Redneck Jazz, and it was just a couple of months too late.
Too bad. Where was I going with my question here? So when you were doing all that, when did you decide to take it out on your own, and make this a Tom Principato thing?
Well, after the thing with Pete Kennedy, I joined Mary Blankmeyer's band for a while, and that lasted for about a year. Actually, also for a small time before that, I played with Billy Price for a couple of months. I moved to Pittsburgh, and Played with him for a few months while he looked for his regular guitarist had quit, and he asked me to fill in while he looked for another guy. So I played with Billy Price, came back from Pittsburgh, got a gig with Mary Blankmeyer. And at one of Mary's gigs, a guy named Bob Siegel approached me and said, "Hey, man, you're really good. You should make your own albums. You want me? I'll pay for you to record if you want." I said, "Great."
Oh, wow.
So I recorded a couple of 45s that he paid for, and I started to get some attention. Even WMAL played my 45 at one point, and Felix Grant, and so at that point I just decided I was going to try to start my own band. So that puts us up to about 1984, and I was really lucky. I got guys to invest in my first 2 albums. They paid for them.
Wow.
And I was sort of off and running.
Yeah, that doesn't happen much nowadays.
No.
Well, it's the kickstart of the day, I guess.
Yeah, I guess that's true. That's true. Instead of putting out there, that you would like to do this, and could people chip in, and we'll give you a DVD. He was good enough to have people coming up to him and go, "Hey, man, you're really good. I would like to invest in recording you."
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
And that had a risk, I'm sure.
Well,
because there was always the people that would be like, "Hey, I'll make you money," and then then you're Boston.
Well, the cool thing about it is that the guys that invested money in me in the beginning were really doing it for the heart and soul part. I mean, of course, I think they would like to have made some money, but I think they were more or less just trying to really give me an opportunity was the main focus. And I'm happy to say that not only did I pay both of those investors back for my first 2 albums.
Oh, nice.
But that was the incentive to start my own indie label, Powerhouse Records.
Oh, very cool.
And now that's, over 30 years later, Powerhouse Records. I have 18 of my own releases and over 30 releases in our catalog, including a couple by Danny Gatton, Roy Buchanan, Steve Wolf, Tommy Lepson, Nighthawks, Big Joe Mayer.
Mm-hmm.
These are pretty heavy hitters.
Yeah, totally. Now, I'm looking at the discography here that I printed out, and it looks like from this list, it looks like Powerhouse starts in 84, or does it go back further?
Well, if you count the 45s, it's a little bit before that, but as far as the albums go, I think that's about right.
Cool. And
how long is that? 84, 14.
32?
So it's 42 years.
32, right?
It's got to be 32.
32?
94.
2016 to 84.
Yeah, 32. Yeah, come on, man. Don't make us that old. Jesus.
I'm no good without a calculator.
34 is still very respectable, my friend.
Yes.
And the top album on this list here, it starts with 1984 Powerhouse Records. It's called a little album called Blazing Telecasters with Tom Principato and that other slouch on Telly, Danny Gatton.
Oh, there you go.
It's like, wow. And that's a live album.
Oh.
That's a live album. So put those 2 guys on the stage together and watch the sparks.
Yes.
Wow. That must have been a hell of an experience, man. Just getting you 2 guys to play together.
It was extremely challenging, extremely intimidating, and at times rewarding. But I mean, it's the main thing for me was to just play with my hero. I mean, there was the best you could hope for was to just try to keep up with the guy and not be snowed under and have something to contribute to after he played everything in the world.
Right. He stops and you go, "You left me nothing."
Yeah, there's no more notes.
Right. There's no
They've
more.
all been used.
Right.
But it was a big thrill, especially at that time of my life and my career. I mean, it's true. I had seen Les Paul play. I had seen Chet Atkins play, and Danny was as good as those guys. And it was really a thrill to play with somebody that good.
Yeah, that's.
You could go over to his house.
Jesus.
Yeah, true.
Unbelievable.
Now, were you guys? I'm not sure if you were using the same gear. I know he had used super reverbs a lot. Were you using supers or twins then, or do you remember?
Oh, I remember very well, because sometimes it was really loud. And not so much the whole band experience, but playing with Danny. He had this Tweed twin amp with JBLs in it that was screaming.
Wow.
I think at the Blazing Telecaster show, the show that became the CD, I think he brought a Vibrolux to that show and had it up on a chair.
Wow, so he calmed things down a little bit.
There are other times when I played with him, like with Johnny Seaton, and he'd bring one of those 1959 that 3-pickup Les Paul that he had with the PAFs and that Tweed twin amp with JBLs, and it just roared.
Wow.
I've never seen any pictures of him with a Les Paul.
Yeah, I have.
Have you?
Yeah.
No, it's the Redneck Jazz era.
Now I got to go on the interweb.
Yeah, late 70s.
Wow.
Late 70s. He had two of those guitars. I just learned that Joe Kojak has one of those guitars.
Really?
Yeah, they got the white pinstriping on them. And
Wow.
Pretty cool.
I had no idea he had two. Wow. Yeah, and then he at some point he gravitated to Telly's as well, and then Telly's with Bardens, and we've done the whole Joe Barden thing.
Well, yeah, actually in the early 70s, I mean, the first time I saw him play, it was a 53 Telly, a 410 Bassman, and a tube Echoplex.
Wow.
And that was killer. And that's the rig he used on like the Danny and the Fat Boys album, like Harlem Nocturne, that ridiculous, great Telly tone on that instrumental.
Wow, so he was playing the Les Pauls after that. Cool.
I'm looking at this thing.
Oh, yeah.
This is crazy. Look at the pinstriping on this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Well, that was also the guitar that he had that whole remote control thing with. He called it the Dingus Box. And
the Dingus Box.
He had, remote control for a Leslie cabinet and for the tremolo in the amp, and he had all kinds of stuff in that.
There's this picture. I'm sorry, and this is the internet, and we're talking, but maybe I can post this. There is a picture of Danny Gatton playing this guitar with this Dingus Box, right? Mm-hmm. And his belt buckle is a Charlie Christian pickup.
Yeah, I have one of those too.
Do you really?
Rabinowitz made those.
Who did?
Tex Rabinowitz.
Oh, really?
He made those belt buckles. Yep, and I got one too.
I'm like looking at him going, wait a minute,
cool.
I know what that is. This is so cool. I've never seen. Boy, look how young he is.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I should mention too. That rig that Danny was playing when I first saw him in the early 70s, he had that 53 Telly, had the Charlie Christian pickup in it.
Yeah.
That's right.
We got that story from Joe.
From Joe, yeah.
And then he was challenged to make one that would fit in a stock position with two blades.
Yep, yeah. That was the inspiration for the whole cobalt steel blade pickup that Joe went on.
Yeah.
He started out with single coils. I had some of those. I traded him a bag of fireworks for the first pair of single coil Joe Bard. Boy, I wish I had those. And then, later they did the noise canceling.
Yeah, here's a box of fireworks.
Go make me a couple pickups, kid.
Yeah, a bag full of illegal fireworks.
Don't blow your hand off, but come back next week.
At least before you make me the pickups, right? Wow.
Hey, they don't call me Principato for nothing.
Yeah, we never got that story from Joe. That's funny.
Oh,
that's funny. Well, I'm gonna jump down the. We're gonna get into a little bit of gear here now because I've got to. But we're gonna jump down the timeline here a little bit to a little album called where is it here? Where is it? Here it is, In the Clouds.
Okay.
In the Clouds, 1995. This thing, and I asked you about this once before. This has a couple of live cuts on it. And Mick, there's a live cut on here that is, it's like more, I don't know how to describe it other than like more Hendrixy than Hendrix in this beautifully
Really?
kind of fuzzed out way. It's just the sound is gargantuan. And I asked Tom, I said, what the hell were you using to get this? Tom, what did you use for that live thing?
Well, it was this was definitely during my Marshall phase, and obviously a somewhat Hendrix-influenced phase. I had a lot of that kind of gear then, but I believe for that live recording, I used a Marshall Major that it didn't have KT-88s. It had something else that was a replacement because those were so hard to find then. 6550s or something?
Yeah, 6550s more than
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
A Marshall, I was a Marshall Major head, 200-watt head, and a PV 5150 412 cabinet, a vintage fuzz face, and a Stratocaster that had Seymour Duncan classic recreation pole piece pickups that was tuned down a full step, not a half step.
Wow. Mick, you got to hear this thing. That it's like
I got to hear it now.
The tone is just glorious.
And here's
It's so cool.
Here's the thing: is those are Sheffield speakers. That's what they're
in the 5150.
In the 5150. And if you really get down to the meat and potatoes, it's a greenback.
Okay.
Because what they did when they were building that amp, they were trying to reproduce what the original 100-watt Marshall,
Eddie's early cabs,
and so because they don't like to buy anything from anybody that makes something, they made their own version of it, and they put a ceramic. That's what it was. But I think I had a set, and I sold them because they didn't sound good with the heavy metal amp that I had. I don't know, it didn't gel well, right? So I sold them, and I remember this guy paid big money for these speakers. He's like, man, these things are, and then I see them now, and I'm like, oh my God, I should have kept them.
Well, out of all that kind of piggyback gear that I had in those days, which was just a drag to schlep around, that cabinet, I tried so many different phases of Marshall with the Rolla Celestians and all that stuff. And I always thought that PV 5150 cabinet was the best one that I ever tried. That was a great. I wish I had not gotten rid of that speaker cabinet. Although I wouldn't be happy to be lifting it anyway.
Right.
I used to ride mine like a surfboard.
I really never thought I would hear those words being said. It's I tried all these cabinets, and the PV one was the best.
Well, our buddy James Brown, he was the guy who designed that amp
stuff. Yeah.
And I think that, because they were trying so hard to get to that point to where he gave the green light for them to do it, that, they put everything they had
as much R&D into that as they possibly could.
And it's, I think that was one of their, that was their best, that they did.
Probably.
I think even, I don't think they've ever done anything outside of that. Joe Satriani had an amp, and it was basically they mimicked the 30th anniversary Marshall, because that was his amp forever. And now Marshall builds some crazy thing for him. He has his own world that he lives in. But that Eddie Van Halen amp, that 5150, that's like one of those solid amps that they.
There's so many iterations of it. The first one was probably the closest to being Marshall-ish.
And then they had to do the 2, and then they did the 3, and it just started. It was like, wow, look, there's knobs all the way around.
Oh, they made all these quote-unquote improvements.
Yeah, exactly. But those first ones, and they're the most sought after, too.
Yeah.
I don't even remember where I bought it, or I guess I didn't. I don't think I bought the whole amp rig with the head. I think I just bought the cabinet somewhere, probably at Chuck Levin's, but I don't even know.
Yeah.
I don't even know why I bought it.
Well, you had to have something
to put that major
the major on, right?
Yeah, right. Talk about schlepping. That was a bear, too.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
those things. And at that time, I distinctly remember because I had quite a few of them, not quite a few, but a few of them crossed the bench at that time. I actually owned one. That I sold to Stevie.
Really?
Yeah, he wanted another major, and he heard that one. He said, yeah, I'll take that one. So I had them, and I know that the ones that came across the bench at that time, the only KT-88s that were available were Chinese. And they were like first coming, the Chinese tubes were first coming out, and they were just firecrackers. They would just blow up all over the place. And they would work if you put them in like a 100-watt Marshall, or a 100-watt something.
Uh-huh.
They would be fun. They would be kind of an improvement over a 6550 and a 100-watt amp of most normal caliber.
Yeah.
But you try to put 4 of those in a 200-watt major. 5 minutes.
Jesus.
10 minutes. At best, but a good American-made RCA 6550 would hold out in those amps for a really good time, and they had some serious voltages in them. That's why nothing would
really.
Yeah, they would
to get the full 200 watts, right?
Yeah, I mean they were over 650 volts on the plate or something.
Oh
like
my
that.
God,
it was crazy. Yeah,
and I'm sure you heard it out front.
Oh, yeah.
Well, here's a story that I'm sure you'll love concerning KT-88s from that period when they weren't really around.
Mm-hmm.
This was the year that I was in Austin, and I went to the Mexican flea market they had every Sunday. And it was just a bunch of bric-a-brac stuff that was for sale by different people. And I came across one little booth where this guy, obviously, it looked like a radio repair shop had gone out of business or something.
Mm-hmm.
And he had all these tubes. He had KT-88s. He had 6K6s. He had, like Mullard 7025s and stuff. And I'm trying to contain myself. And I said to him, so how much for the tubes? Because they're all new in boxes. He goes,
oh, God.
$5 for the big ones, $3 for the little ones.
Oh my God,
Jesus!
And I said, okay, and I only had like $12 on me. So since I still had an old reverb unit, I bought some 6K6s.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I'll be back. And of course, when I went back, they were gone.
Oh
wow!
I'd have said, "Here's $12 to hold them."
Right.
I'll be back.
Which ones do you want?
$5 for the big ones.
Which ones do you want? All of them?
Yeah, I'm going to go empty my bank account. I'll be right back.
I want all of them. You could just, just box everything up now and leave and just give me a number when I come back.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I know.
$5 for the big ones.
I know plenty of people. One guy comes to mind, Steve Melchisethian from Angela Instruments way back in the day. He used to religiously Saturday mornings hit what they used to have ham fests all around, and all these electronics guys would just be there with all their electronics gear. And
I used to sell monitors at the one in Timonium.
Oh yeah,
yeah. My company would throw monitors away, and I'm like, these are brand new. They're really good, and people wanted them because certain things that they work better with CRTs, right?
Right.
So I'd go there. And there'd be the guy with all those tubes, man.
Oh, yeah.
They weren't $5 for the big ones, that's for sure.
But yeah, they're all that kind of stuff is dried up. But luckily, they're making much better tubes now than 30 years ago.
Well, the technology,
yeah, surprisingly. But those good old American tubes would still hold out in those amps, man. But that was funny because I knew what the answer to that question was about the tone, and you have to hear the tone, and it's gargantuan. But a major. He's one of the only guys I knew that could actually play a major out. I didn't know anybody that was playing a 200-watt amp out at that point. I went, God, that's got to be amazing. It's got to just feel awesome to play that amp.
It's got to be like getting hit in the head with a hammer or something.
Yeah, but it's a good hit.
Well, yeah, I didn't say it was bad, but I mean, it's got to be a punch like nobody's business.
Oh, yeah.
I got to tell you a story about when I did buy it. I bought it on a road trip where it's the only cross-country road trip that I've done. But I bought the amp on the road in St. Paul, Minnesota. And it just stayed in the back of the van, and by the time we were getting near the end of the tour, we got to Houston, I said, I got to play this thing. I can't stand it any longer. And I took it out at Billy Blues in Houston and just wailed with it. And this woman who had been dancing in front of the band came up to me and said, y'all are really good, but could you turn the guitar down just to see hair?
Well, there you go.
Well, you know what? Playing a major and being asked to turn it down just to see hair? Mission accomplished, man. Wow. Wow. Yeah, I don't think I ever got to play mine out live at all. Wow.
I love that.
Yeah. Just to see hair. That's hilarious.
Just a little bit.
So at what point did you go, this is ridiculous, I'm going back to combo amps? Do you remember?
Okay, well, let's see. Well, okay, my first Tweed amp was a 1954 Tweed Pro that was in a Gibson case that was for sale in the Washington Post classified for $125.
Wow. So
I went and bought that.
You went from a major to a Tweed Pro.
No, this was
This was pre-major?
84. Yeah. The major was like 94.
Okay.
93, 94. Oh, so you mean after the major, when did I go back to combo amps?
Yeah, but I like the Tweed thing as well.
Sort of the reverse. I always played combo amps, and then when I went through that Hendrix phase, I sort of stopped doing that. Although even though I stopped playing the Marshalls, I still played that 5150 cabinet with my blackface Vibreverb live.
Wow.
Which was a no-no because of the impedance, but fortunately I didn't blow anything up.
Yeah, the Fender amps really seem to hold an impedance mismatch well. I know guys that have done that for decades, and it's like, nah, the amp still works fine. You know?
Wow.
Yeah.
So Leo overbuilt shit back in the day.
I got you.
Now I'm not so much. No, I'm not so sure. But you know.
He's been dead a while.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Wow. So you're still hauling around the 412 just to get the Vibreverb bigger. That's cool.
Yep.
And then did you at some point just go, the Vibreverb sounds fine just on its own?
Yeah, I guess by the mid-90s, after the In the Clouds CD, and by the time my next CD that I did was Really Blue, which was around the time I came back from Austin, 95. I was back to combo amps by then and been playing those ever since. And the same amps. I have a Fender Vibreverb Blackface, a 59 410 Bassman, I have 3 Tweed Pros, and I have a Silverface Vibrolux, but I rarely play that at a gig. Ain't loud enough.
That's true. Didn't I see you with a VVT as well at one point?
Oh yeah, I have that. That's a funny story because one of the guys that was connected with that company called me up one day, and he said, "I'm with VVT, and I want to come over to your house with my amps, and I want to have an amp shootout." I said,
What?
"Okay."
Okay.
Because he wanted to get me interested in them custom making me an amp.
Mm-hmm.
So he brought over a few heads and some stuff, and he put them up against my Tweed Pros, and I won.
Oh.
So he said, well, I'd still like to, he said, I got this idea. Let's make an amp that's everything that you like about the Vibreverb and the Tweed Pros. I said, excellent idea. I said, and you know what? Since I've been using those tube reverb units, let's build one of those right into the amp too. I only need one input, and it's got to be an EVM 12L. Mm. And let's see what we can do. And so they came up with this combination of what I like about the Vibreverb and the Tweed Pros, and it's a really nice amp.
Hmm. Wow, nice. That was an adventurous undertaking, I think.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to mention any names, but really, when I first got the amp, there was a lot of problems with it. It was blowing fuses, didn't really sound that good, and it wasn't until I was able to give it to another guy. I don't know if you know a guy named Jim Bundy, who's in Manassas.
No, I don't know him.
He totally revoiced it for me, and I love it now. But he
Why do
knows
I
what I
know
love
that?
about the Tweed Pros and the Vibroverb, too.
Yeah, that's
I know that name.
Jim Bundy.
I really do.
Yeah, he's really, really a talented guy. He's
I've heard that somewhere.
been diagnosed with cancer lately, so you may have seen something on Facebook that's they're trying to raise money for him
Oh wow,
because he doesn't have any health insurance.
Oh, that's horrible.
that is happening more and more lately, man. Jesus.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Well, we're getting to that age.
That is true. That is true. And you have not a lot, but you do have some, what I would assume at this point are mainstay pedals. What are your favorites on the floor?
Believe it or not, the Boss Blues Driver. I love that pedal.
Really?
Wow.
But these days, I definitely switch my thing around a lot. I really like the Zen Drive. I really like the Boss Blues Driver. I really like the Love pedal. I have a blue tube that I love for recording. I don't use it for live gigs.
Mm-hmm.
So that's for overdrive. But I really, of all the overdrive pedals that I've tried, I really like the Boss Blues Driver the best. It seems to me, to my ears and my rig, it's the most balanced. There's so many of the Tube Screamer knockoffs that are too much mid-range for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I really like the Blues Driver. And I tried their new Humpty Dumpty hopped up version, and I just like the one that's straight out of the box from Taiwan or whatever.
Right. There's the is that one of the ones they do a Waza craft on or something?
Yeah, the Waza craft. Yeah,
Yeah.
I bought one of those and didn't like it.
Interesting.
Wazacraft.
Wazacraft. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
funny.
Oh, it's
So
one of these,
there's a
right?
Blues Driver. So, Jeff, you probably know. We probably talked about and you've probably seen. At the gigs, I basically have two pedal boards mounted on one, and I switch between them with an AB box. So on one side, it's overdrive, and on the other side, it's distortion fuzz. So on the fuzz side, I really like the Electro Harmonics muff fuzz. Not the big muff, although I like those too. But at most of the gigs, I use the muff fuzz, which is the same box as an LPB1 power booster. It's not a stomp box. It's a little square box that has an on-off switch on it.
Oh, yeah.
It's real tiny.
So,
Yeah, they used to plug into your
Yeah.
guitar or your amplifier, depending on which side they had the plug and which side had the jack on it.
right. Well, they also made one with input and output.
I
too.
owned one.
Oh, wow.
It had one knob, right? One knob?
Yes, one
Yeah.
knob and an on-off switch.
Yeah, and the 9-volt would sit in there, and it was half of the unit.
Yeah, yeah.
The other half was
That's
the
true.
circuit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had one of those, and
So-
I had a Big Muff Pie.
Yeah, no, I love those too, especially the Russian ones. But I've got an old one of those too. But so because the muff fuzz is not a stomp box, I have it on the other side of the AB box, and I just leave it on and switch to it when I want to have that sound.
Cool. Yes, you actually switch, and this is pretty unique. I don't know that I've heard anybody else that does it, but he actually switches between pedal boards.
Wow.
You know, one board is set up to do this, and the other board is set up to do this, and I don't know that I've heard anybody else do that. It's kind of cool.
There it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'm showing Jeff a picture of it now.
Yep, the muff fuzz. It's same box as the LPB one. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, it's two boards, but it's all on one piece of wood.
Mm-hmm.
I've got it all condensed, but there's two sides, and I use the Boss tuner as a splitter. So one side of one output of the tuner goes to the A side, the overdrive side, and the other output of the tuner goes to the B side, which is the distortion side.
Interesting.
So I don't even have to worry about having a whole bunch of stuff daisy chained.
Right. You just switch the outputs with an AB outputs of each board. kind of.
Yeah, and there's never more than just a couple of pedals between me and the amp. Although there's like 8 pedals or 6 pedals on the board.
Mm-hmm. Any like reverbs, delays, choruses on the floor?
I like the Boss digital delay, just a pedal. Although I've got a couple of echo plexes and I dragged them out recently, and I may start playing with those again. I love them.
Really?
Solid state.
Do you have the new version at MXR? Well, actually, it isn't out yet. Have you seen this thing, or is it out? It may have just been released. It's called the It's called the MXR. It's an MXR pedal, and it's called the Echoplex. And they have recreated the whole thing in an analog format, but in a stomp box, $200, and it is getting crazy reviews.
Really, that's a Dunlop thing. Yeah.
So somebody did that with the Roland Space Echo too.
I think so. Yeah. I've heard about that.
Well, I mean, there's so much out there now in the way of modeling, and
yeah, but this thing's analog. They say.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Because I know Strymon's getting raves for all their stuff, and they've got the El Capistan, which is kind of like an Echoplex thing, but they all have huge microprocessors in them. I mean, like major microprocessors in them.
Yeah, look at this thing. It's only well, this is the preamp. They've had the Echoplex preamp out for a while. This is MXR, and now they haven't
did the whole Echoplex
here it is
thing,
right there. There it is. So it's a 3 knob. It's got a volume, sustain, delay. It's got a tap in.
Yes, you can tap
so
tempo.
You can get. They have a little $35 tap button that you can put on this thing, which I don't understand. They could have just put a second switch, but hey, what are you going to do? So it goes in and out, so it's not stereo or anything, and it's not like a dry side and a wet side or anything. But it's and I tell you, I heard it on our buddy Pete Thorne. He does a lot of demos.
Okay, yeah.
He did it the other day.
Yeah.
And it's analog, huh?
Yeah.
Analog,
Interesting.
yes.
Interesting.
Pretty crazy, isn't it?
Well, yeah. Now, Tom, you have this whole pedal thing, and I know you do a lot of shows outside the U.S., and you seem to have a really big audience there. Do you take your amp and your pedal boards, or just the pedals, or how do you work traveling outside the U.S.? Because a lot of guys do it in a bunch of different ways nowadays.
Right. Well, I don't go to Europe nearly as often as I used to, and I just got back from Spain. So all I did was take like a really abbreviated pedal board with me to Spain. I have 220-volt power sources, so that's no problem. I can show up there and be ready to go. Mm-hmm. At one point, when I was really touring a lot, I had a booking agent in Amsterdam, and he had a road manager that was a driver that we toured with sometimes as much as like 5 times a year.
Wow!
I bought an old blues DeVille in Holland that I really liked, and he used to keep it. And I eventually ended up selling that to another European musician I know. And I used to keep a whole full pedal board over there, just like what I use here too. Mm-hmm. But I've got I brought all that stuff back now, and I just take a few pedals when I go.
Wow, I mean, to me, it still seems like you're coming back from somewhere often now and then. There's still such a blues audience out there in Europe. And, and I assume Spain, since you just got back from Spain.
Yeah.
How do you find the fans out there? I mean, do they really into it, dig it?
It's really fantastic, and it's really so much better, in my opinion, than playing in the USA, at least on the level that I play on in the USA. The fans are really attentive. They're really appreciative. There's not when they're there to give their full attention to you in the show. I have never played a gig anywhere in Europe where there was a television on during the show, or people playing pool, or anything like that. They sit and listen and appreciate, and it's really phenomenal.
Well, we've had this conversation a lot, and we always talk about how, like, Well, I'll give you a good example because it's a new band, not new, but they've been out for I don't know for 2008, something like that. Anyway, Airborne.
Okay.
These guys are straight in Marshalls. They Gibson, Marshall, done, right? It's just a rock and roll band. They will play like the Download Festival in like Germany, right? And there'll be 80,000 people to see them. They'll be like one of the top billing bands. They're going to play here in like a month or two, and the club holds 700, and I don't think it's sold out yet.
Yeah, wow.
So it tells you that they're very devoted.
Well, not only that, I think that's one of the biggest differences. There are large American festivals, but there are much more larger and smaller festivals in Europe. And I think possibly one of the reasons is that it's so much more art and culture to them that the festivals can get some subsidy money from their town or their country or their whatever.
Oh, okay.
And it's not so much necessary for profit, it's just to present, the music.
Plus, they don't act like animals. A lot of our festivals, it's like fires.
You know how strong Belgian beer is, right? If you don't play early in the day in Belgium at a festival, you can forget it by 6 o'clock.
Yeah, but see, you're just playing to a crowd that's in a coma. What I'm talking about is they tried to recreate Woodstock here, and it was like 150 girls were raped, and they burned half the place.
The last one didn't go so good.
Yeah. They called it rape stock, for God's sakes. They had to go back to tape to find out the people that did what they were doing.
Wow,
it's insanity, man.
Right, just chill out and stay away from the brown acid. You'll be fine.
Yeah, I don't get it.
I know that audiences over there really love Mr. Principato, and I know every time we see him here, everybody that I see is into watching him because he's such a unique player, and your influences, like it ain't straight blues, at all. It's it's almost like you've got some. It's almost like there's a little bit of Caribbean in some of the stuff, but also like a lot of New Orleans kind of feel. What do you attribute your influences to as far as outside of the blues, and then you take it and put it into the blues, which is very cool.
Right. Well, thanks, man. I've always loved the city of New Orleans and the music that's associated there. And actually, that was I discovered New Orleans music really, really early on. During the Twist era in the early 60s, I got a couple of records by Huey Smith and his Clowns. And I've always loved New Orleans rhythm and blues. And eventually, that developed into sort of the funky thing, the Meters, the Neville Brothers, Dr. John. And so that's all been an influence. I've made many trips to New Orleans just to try to learn that and see it firsthand. And a hobby of mine is cooking too, so I enjoy that style of food and cooking. So I used to go down to New Orleans for Jazz Fest or whenever and just say, I need to do that ever important field research.
Did you ever get an opportunity to play with any of those, the Nevilles or Dr. John?
I did a huge concert in Bellinzona, Switzerland, second billing to Dr. John. I didn't sit in with him. I did play with John Mooney a few times, who's a friend of mine who lived in New Orleans for a while. I don't think he lives there anymore. And actually, he's from Rochester, New York, but once he moved to New Orleans, he just sort of immersed himself in that style. And, of course, Sonny Landreth is a friend of mine I've played with a few times, although he's not New Orleans per se. He's more Louisiana and Cajun and Bayou and his own thing anyway.
Yeah, he's definitely his own thing for sure.
I thought he was from another planet when I saw him.
Could be.
Yeah.
Could be. But, just the nicest, humblest guy, too.
Yeah, another guy, just totally 100% unique.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't know when
Yeah.
he's using a slide or not, and, you know, and it's crazy tunings and everything else, and you're watching a guy play, and you're like, I don't understand any. How are you doing this?
Yeah, and
you know?
he's fingering notes with fingers behind the slide and things. His style is
Yes,
just,
I know.
Yeah,
It's crazy. Well, you know, if it wasn't for him, I think my life would be pretty different, because way early on, I discovered his song Congo Square.
Oh, yeah.
And did the first cover of it way before John Mayall and the Neville Brothers. And that was on my second album in 1987. And I was so impressed with his first album that I tracked him down and called him up, and we used to talk on the phone a lot, and we've had a friendship ever since. And I used to see him more when I lived in Texas, because he was in Louisiana. He'd play in Austin, and I'd play in his area too, and he'd come by. Grant Street. I can't think of the name of the town right now, but Louisiana there.
It's irrelevant. You were hanging with Sonny Landreth.
Yeah, exactly. You have his phone number.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
I think you're a friend when you can pick up the phone and call him and he answers.
I think that would be a good show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The Landreth Principato Landreth tour.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Couple
Well,
notes.
we've done a couple of shows together. I was called by an agent today. He's coming to town in January, and I may be on the show. I can't say anything more about where it might be or whatever right now, but I think I'm going to be doing another show with him in January.
Nice.
Can we drive to it?
Yeah.
Oh, well, there you go.
Good. Then you will let us know.
There you go.
Awesome.
Yeah.
See? That works.
That it does. Yeah, and we will do a remote.
Yes, we
We'll
will.
do a remote with everybody. Absolutely. Tom, any new material coming out? Any touring? Anything you want our listeners to know about?
Well, these days I've got a couple of nice gigs coming up. The one that we're really trying to focus on is our DVD CD release party Tuesday, September 13th at the Ram's Head in Annapolis.
Oh, okay.
This is going to be to focus on our latest release, Live and Still Kickin'.
There you go.
And who is playing in this ensemble?
Okay, well, this is basically the band that I perform with live now with some augmentation, but it's Joe Wells on drums, Josh Howell on congas, percussion, and
Love
harmonica
Josh.
and vocals. Jay Turner is on bass, although for the last year or so, Steve Wolf has been playing with me.
Oh, wow.
Tommy Lepson guests on keyboards and vocals, and we also have a three-piece horn section.
Nice.
There you go.
I love when people throw in horns. You know?
Yeah.
Just because we're recording a DVD.
Uh-huh.
You know, it's so cool. It's so cool.
So we're trying to get people out to that show. I also have a co-bill with Saturday, September 3rd at the Birch Mirror with Bill Kirchen and his band. So that's going to be fun.
I haven't seen Bill in a while.
They like to call that Twin Twang.
Twin Twang. Did you ever see Bill Kirchen play Telecaster? Did you ever see Bill Kirchen play at all?
No.
Really?
No.
He's
so
amazing.
narrow-minded. You know me.
That he is the other Telly master. One of the other ones that's left.
Okay.
He you know Hot Rod Lincoln?
Uh-huh.
That's Bill Kirchen.
Holy crap.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, he gets all sorts of sounds out of that plank of wood.
Yeah, he does.
He's very cool to watch. Sweetheart of a guy too. He is.
Yep.
Now we have a name.
Always look forward to playing with him.
Yeah. He's always fun. Well, cool. A DVD release and a couple of shows. Any touring on the horizon that's going to take you around the country or outside of the country?
No, this is pretty much it. It was my last trip out of town, the trip to Spain. And we're sort of coming up on a slower period for me. We got some gigs in November and December, and then here comes winter.
Yeah. It always does slow down now. It
Sure.
always does slow down now, but everything picks back up in the spring again.
Yep.
So that's cool. Well, Tom, thank you very much for being on with us, man. It was a pleasure, and I think we covered a bunch of different topics.
You do have a website, right?
Yes, TomPrincipato.com and PowerhouseRecords.com.
All right. Both of those will be on the show,
There you
and
go.
it will live in
perpetuity.
That's right, when it goes to the archives.
Right.
So definitely check that out. And if you're anywhere in the Maryland region,
In Maryland, D.C., Virginia, Northern Virginia area.
when during those dates, you should try to check that out.
If you don't know about Tom, you should, and if you haven't seen him, you should.
Exactly.
It's a mighty fine show,
and we touch all corners of the earth.
Oh yeah.
So enjoy.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, right. I mean, out there in the ether, if you don't know about Mr. Principato, you should pick up a couple of the releases that he has.
Yep, and you can do that through Powerhouse, right?
Yes, exactly.
There you go.
There
PowerhouseRecords.com.
.com. Well, there you go. Listen up, people.
Yeah.
So, all right, Tom, thank you very much, man. Have a great rest of the evening, and good luck with the CD release. And where was I going? Tell Mr. Kirchner I said hi, and hopefully when you get this new thing that you're going to talk about in January, you'll let us know, and we'll all come down and say hey and enjoy what I'm sure it's going to be one hell of a show.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thanks, and thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, man. Thanks a lot. Have a great evening. And there you have the story.
Well, that's so cool. He's played with some cats, man. I tell you what.
Yeah.
You're playing with Danny Gatton. You were doing something.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you just, go back into our archives and listen to the Joe Barden story, and it was like you had to, if you didn't have it, you weren't asked. You just,
Right.
And those guys made it up.
Yeah.
A lot of it as it was going along, and I can't imagine.
Yeah, I can't imagine what what the inception of that was like. It's like, okay, we're going to take these two Telly masters, even though he was playing the triple P90 Les Paul thing at some point in time. But I mean, we're going to take these two masters of the guitar, like instrumental masters of the guitar,
stick them together.
It's like, wow.
Yeah. And DC, I mean, the guy that we interviewed, and I totally forgot his name, Larry Coryell.
Oh yes,
he was talking about DC being that thing that had tremendous musicians come out of it.
Absolutely.
And what a shame to lose somebody like Danny and Roy Buchanan, and it really is. It's like there's this whole thing, and I'm sure there's there's towns that have this, with these gunslingers that are just unheard of almost, and like he's got to be big in Europe, because we just are every 5 seconds the face of whatever is changing.
Yeah,
and that's I know that our listeners are not that way.
No, our listeners, because they're into music, have respect for.
Yeah, you guys.
Well, they're into gear, but because they're into gear, that must mean they're into music. And if they're into music, they have respect for the music, and they have respect for the artists.
Yeah, and we see it through the comments. You guys are not, just listening to the latest stuff. It's not a pop show. That's what I'm trying to say.
Right.
And that's good, but we kind of need to spread that word a little bit more. I think,
Yeah, so if you hear an artist, like if you're not familiar with Tom,
check his stuff out, man.
Yeah, an incredible player.
And let me tell you, YouTube is a big place, and I'm sure there's videos of him out there.
Oh, absolutely.
So maybe you see that major on stage.
Maybe I've never looked for a video for that, but man, I'll turn you on to it. And if our listeners want to pick up In the Clouds, I think it's there's a couple of live cuts towards the end, and it's you can hear this tone.
Well, remember that PowerhouseRecords.com, you can pick up all of his stuff on there.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's plenty of it.
Yeah. So awesome, man.
Cool, man.
So until next time, my friend.
Because we do have to do this again.
Yeah, we got some guests.
Oh, yeah,
I'm Mick Marcelino.
And I'm still the guy on the other side of the mic from you, which is Chef Bober.
There you go.
That's it. I got it.
And we're always saying
onward.
Be sure and follow the show on Twitter @Amps and Axes. Also, make sure you like the show on Facebook. For news, comments, and everything else, visit the webpage ampsandaxescast.com. Thanks for listening.